Welcome to the Sustainable Living Podcast. Tips, tools, and tactics for living a heart-centered life that honors Mother Earth and her inhabitants. The information shared on the Sustainable Living Podcast reflects the opinions of host Marianne West, Jenise Friant, and their guests. Please use your own discretion in research before applying any information to your individual situation. Now, here are your hosts, Marianne and Jenise.
Hello, everyone. This is your host, Marianne West, and I'm here with my co-host.
Yes, Jenise Friant. I'm here too for a change.
Yay, yay, yay.
We get really excited when we get a chance to sit down and actually have a chat together because our lives get so busy and we end up doing so many interviews with other people. So we don't get to do this as often as we'd like to, but hopefully we are planning to do it more in the future when things calm down a bit, right?
Absolutely. And so things are going to calm down. In which world are we living in? Okay.
Yeah.
It's a plan.
No, it will calm down. I'm envisioning calm, peace every day in my meditation, but we'll get to that.
Okay.
So what's been going on with you, Mariana?
So with us, we have had a lot of just getting sick going on here. And I think it's a curse of the preschool since, well, all my little grandsons are going to schools now. And I think schools are such a good petri dish of all kinds of colds and flus coming home. So I certainly have done a lot of that. And you probably can still hear it in my voice a little bit. But Jenise and I actually were going to do this earlier in the week, and I sounded like really, really bad.
Yeah. And it's been going around my house too. Fortunately, I was able to hit it early and it never really caught hold. And the way I did it is I used On Guard doTERRA essential oils, and also my big go-to is oregano oil. Those two things, just hitting it hard, and I was able to pretty much within a day knock it out.
Very cool. Yeah, this time around, I mean, I ended up with a pretty good fever and everything. And partly too, my husband was in the hospital and blah, blah, blah. And so, you know, there's a whole nother germ factory, entering the scene by visiting, and, you know, a certain amount of stress. And I find when I get really cold, even so getting cold and getting sick is not necessarily related. You need germs to enter, you know, the equation, which are usually plentifully around. But for me, when I get really cold, my whole body seems to just kind of go into standstill, and then it's much easier for me to get sick. And I get cold really easy. So, you know.
Yeah. My mom has a terror of us ever getting any kind of a draft or anything. And if it's cloudy, she doesn't even go out, and she recommends that nobody ever goes out of their house when it's cloudy. But yeah, I'm with you. I do know that that's not what it is. But on the other hand, you know, the things that your body is dealing with, it's like there's a certain load that your body can take. And I think your body has no problem dealing with the cold normally, but then you add other stressors, like maybe you're getting a lot of germs that you're exposed to, and maybe you're stressed out because stuff's happening in your life. All those things together, they all play a part, I think.
Right. I figured it lowers your immune response, and then, you know, it can get you. And I did similar to you. I was doing a lot of essential oils, and I use the Young Living oils, which, you know, doTERRA actually came out of Young Living.
Yep.
So, yeah, I started using those for a long time. And not that we are making advertisement for certain companies, but I used to work with essential oils a lot, and it's really important to choose high quality, pure oils, you know, like the kind you can sometimes buy in stores and they are $4 or $5. They're probably not the ones you want to use for health purposes. You know?
Right. You definitely don't want to put those directly on your skin or ingest them or anything, unlike some of these ones that we're talking about.
Yeah.
So.
And they probably won't give the results, you know, because they're often mixed with other things. And well, we're not going to do a show on essential oils today.
But maybe one day in the future.
Yeah, we should, because they are definitely good thing in the tool chest of any homesteader because it's like first response. So I rubbed oils all over my feet and I put them every 15 minutes on different ones. So oregano is really, really powerful in destroying viruses and bacteria. So that's a wonderful one to have.
Yeah. And that one's not even, that one I'm not even using essential oil on that one. That's just a regular kind of oregano oil that you just get at the store that you like, I put it in some water and I drink it down. Mm-hmm. But yeah, essential doTERRA has oregano essential oil too. So powerful. In any form, oregano is powerful. And the other thing two other things that I find are really powerful are thyme and sage. These are like things that you have in your kitchen cupboard that you spice your food with, you flavor your food with, but they are extremely powerful in combating, they're naturally, I believe for sure, sage and thyme, I think both of them are both naturally natural antibiotic, natural not an antifungal, but antiviral as well.
Right. Which a lot of the oils are. I have to dig through my old literature when I was actually teaching little classes on this because I had like a whole breakdown of the components in a pure essential oil. Everyone is different, obviously, but also what they were fighting and so forth. So again, just to say this, since we're talking about health right now, we are not doctors. We're not telling you do that. We are just sharing what we have learned and what has worked for us. So.
Right. And I'm just sharing that when I get a cold or a flu or something, I will drink tea made out of thyme or sage, and again, it's something that you have in your cupboard, and you can add some honey and some lemon, and that in itself is just very soothing. You're hydrating yourself with that. You're getting some vitamin C, you're getting the benefits of the honey, but also these herbs have some powerful, powerful elements to them that we all really need to rediscover.
Right. And read about it because you said a key word here, they're powerful. So, you want to be really sensitive about where you're at with your system because, I'm thinking about, for example, when we were doing Gerson's, it chooses a powerful cleanser, but you have to make sure that you support your body to get rid of the toxins. Otherwise, you can actually do harm to yourself by accumulating too many toxins in your body. So, like the same with herbs, only because they're natural is not to say that they can't do harm. And I'm not saying they are harmful, I mean, I'm just saying if you suddenly eat a whole pound of oregano in one setting, there is a pretty, just out there. So I did, ginger and cinnamon tea and I made it really strong. So my first cup, I was like, oh my God, what am I drinking? So
I was drinking ginger tea too. That's what I was giving Mike all day yesterday. And I did it with the root. I just chop up the root and I would simmer and then add honey and lemon to that.
Right. I did that too. And I just added cinnamon as well to the boiling process. Cinnamon is pretty powerful too. Enough of being sick. That's it. We're moving forward to health. So, health, what also has happened, I think maybe last time, did I tell you about my hen which had been broody again? And I had actually 2 little hens where we had 7 little baby chicks.
We did talk some about chicks, but every time I talk to you, Mariana, there are updates. So let's hear some updates about the chickens.
Well, this time it's like a sad update. So, So I had, if I didn't talk about it before, I had 2 hens which got broody and one hatched out 6 eggs, and that particular hen, that was her 3rd clutch for this year. And the other one was a new one, and I wrote a whole story about it in I Feel Like a Killer. It's one of our blog posts because there was like a whole mishap around that, but I don't need to go into that right now. And so she only ended up with 1 baby chick. So then when that one was maybe 2 weeks old, I'm not quite sure, a hawk came by and took it away, and I actually saw it, and I was trying to run after the hawk, which doesn't work out at all.
No.
And it probably would have been, too late anyways, once it grabs it, and they were very fast. Now the other ones, we called her as a little mom. She was hanging with the other family for a while, and then she went off into her own whatever she's doing. Now I only have 3 babies left because I guess the hog said there's pretty good food to be had. And I do have an enclosure where they are very safe, but that particular hen keeps escaping from it. And right now I don't have the time to cover it on the top, but it's pretty big, pretty big area. Yeah. So we have been feeding healthy hogs, all organic permaculture chickens.
Yeah. And you really wouldn't think that you'd have so much of that, because where you're at is very, San Diego suburbia. You're not like out in the wilderness by any means.
No, I'm completely surrounded by houses. But, San Diego has a lot of canyons. So there's actually quite a bit of wilderness in this area. So we have raccoons, we have possums, we have coyotes. And so I do have to protect my chickens, but I have like a renegade flock, which just escapes me and refuses to go where they're supposed to be. For right now, I'm giving up on it. I'm planning on building a brand new coop and then have it be more contained. But some of them I have tried to clip their wings, which sounds awful, but you just clip the feathers. So it's more like clipping your own fingernails. You're not actually taking off limbs or anything. And they just find ways to get out. For right now, I just hope for the best and let them be, and then we see. And the other thing is we have like a bunch of roosters, and one of them decided to roost at night, and that's a renegade rooster too. He roosts right next to our door.
What do you mean by that? He just comes and sleeps by you?
Yeah.
Right by your door?
Yeah, right.
And then wakes up in the morning and does his thing?
Yeah, right in my ear.
Oh my goodness.
And
wow.
they poop a lot at night, so I have everything covered with paper. But that's also the door where the dogs go in and out frequently in the evening. They have to go and do their thing or they hear a noise. So he's constantly, while we are still awake, going, "What are you doing? Why are you opening the door?" But he comes back every night. It's kind of a circus around here right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, you know what? With these winds up here, I kept thinking how grateful I am for our really sturdy coop, our really sturdy chicken coop. I mean, if it was anything other than what it is, it would be gone by now. You guys may even be able to hear the howling that's happening right now. We're supposed to get snow at the end of the day, but my chickens are pretty happy. Except that they've gotten this horrible habit now of pooping in their nesting boxes. And I don't have too many. I'm only leaving one out because they're only giving me an egg. 2 days. They do 2 days an egg, 1 day no egg, and I have 8 chickens. So, do you have any suggestions for deterring them from pooping in the nesting box?
Maybe makes the entrance smaller so they're not trying to sit on there and roost.
Okay.
Because usually they don't poop where they're laying their eggs, but they might be sitting in there feeling that's a good place to hang out, and then that can happen.
So, Mike, maybe a little entryway that makes it a little harder for them to get in there.
Or to just sit there and use it as a roosting position, like they might be just hanging out there. So I would try that.
Well, and if anybody out there has a suggestion, we'd love to hear it. Any suggestions for deterring chickens from pooping in nesting boxes?
Right. So how can people reach us? Let's say it right now so we don't forget in the end. So you can reach Jenise at
sustainablelivingpodcast.com. And you can reach Marianne at
sustainablelivingpodcast.com. And then there's also a Gmail, sustainablelivingpodcast@gmail.com. We have a Facebook group, but we have a page so you can leave messages on the page. And actually, I've been doing some live videos of the chickens on that page. So if you want to see the babies when they were first born and where they're at now because they're quite big. You can go there. And then we have a group. Jenise, what's the name of the group?
It's called Sustainable Living Tips, Tools, and Tactics. And so it's a group, and the people are very active there. They post a lot of great tips for people all about homesteading, sustainable living, all the stuff we talk about here. So, and of course, you can always follow us on Twitter. We're quite active there as well.
Right. And leave a comment on our website. So sustainablelivingpodcast.com. I mean, you can just find us all over the place.
That's right. And you'll find that we are very engaging. We love to chat. So, we're there.
We do. Who would have guessed? Not us.
What a shock.
Big shocker. Shocker.
So up here, it's getting cold. And like I said, we're starting to get some more and more snow here in Big Bear, Southern California. So my homesteading is pretty much done. I've put my raised beds to bed, and I'm inside, and I'm getting ready for Christmas right now. Once Christmas is over, that's another story. I'll be starting seeds. But right now, getting ready for my kids to come home and dealing with all that. And one of the things we've been wanting to do is really cut down on the stuff we exchange. We're not at the Secret Santa phase, but we are definitely wanting to just, one gift and make it inexpensive, and DIY and homemade stuff is very, very welcome. How about you guys? How do you guys handle it?
Well, I'm the Christmas Grinch, when I was a kid, I really loved Christmas, but I was in Germany and it was getting snowy and we would be home and decorating and baking cookies and making gifts. And in our family, it was always that you made things. You didn't go out and bought things, not when I was little at least. And we always would give books. So that was like a big thing. And then, when my kids were little, I tried to keep up the tradition, but it was much harder to create some mystery my parents created around things. Like in Germany, the Christmas tree would show up at Christmas Eve, and in a room which was secluded before, all these mysterious things were happening, and you had like the gifts were in there, and we used to have a little kitchen and store, which was only out for those 2 weeks during the Christmas time. So it was very special. So I did some like that with my kids. But, I live in San Diego, and there's sometimes the sun shining and you can go in your bathing suit to the beach. It doesn't sink in like that it's time to do that. And so later when my kids were gone, I just kind of gave up on Christmas. And so now we just do, and I never liked the idea of the Christmas cards, because to me, it's like, okay, you're sending me a card without saying anything. It just seemed like an unnecessary expense for stamps and getting the cards and, all of that. So I appreciate Christmas letters via email if people actually tell a little bit about what has been happening in the year. Or some people now do the photo cards, which are very nice. But at the same time, then you have another item in the house. You have to go, do I keep it? Yeah. Or do I throw it away?
Right. I'm not a big fan. I have to say, I'm not a big fan of the Christmas card thing. When I first got married, I tried to keep it up, and it is kind of nice touching base with people. But gosh, we've got Facebook. I talk to these people every day. So I do find the Christmas card thing a bit redundant, and also, it's just, to me, it's another hassle around the holidays, another added stress, So in general, I don't really do it either.
Yeah. I gave it up a long, long time ago. It just didn't appeal to me very much. And now you have e-cards you can send.
Right.
With the internet has changed so many things,
right.
where you can do things very differently. So we get together at somebody's house for the day and eat a lot of food.
That's wonderful.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
there is like a secret Santa. Basically, when my kids were adults, we all decided, we really don't need things and let's not buy each other stuff we don't really need unless,
Right.
somebody wants to do a gesture. That's great. And then we really want to find out, is it some you really want or you really need type of a thing. And then we kind of left it for the kids. Everybody can decide what they want to do. But personally, I spend a lot of time with my grandbabies and they get so many gifts that, to me, it's like, you can't even appreciate each one anymore when it's so many,
Right.
So,
right. Especially when you're a kid. I know. I tend to, as the older I get, the more I think, Christmas is really for the parents because they like to shower their kids. I totally did. I will be the first to admit it. Even now, this year cutting back was really hard for me. I want to get them everything, but we all made lists and the lists were $20 and under stuff, nothing more. And things like socks, a pair of earmuffs, stuff that you need,
Right.
And when I do enjoy the exchanging kind of thing. It is fun when you think of what that person wants and then you give it to them. I really like that. So it'd be hard for me to give that up completely, but I think it's easy to keep it to a minimum because we don't need a lot of stuff,
Right. Well, I think, part of it is also financial. I find that I had neighbors which would pay on a credit card until August from their Christmas purchase.
Yeah.
And, and I was in a situation where money just wasn't that plentiful. And I just refused to go into debt to give, gifts, which, gifts, I mean, I have for my daughter, it won 2 years in a row, maybe 3 years. My gift to her was that I would do her laundry because they were in an apartment. They didn't have a washing machine. So,
wow, what an amazing gift.
Yeah. So, it wasn't like I spent a lot of money. And so it was work, a little bit every week when they brought their big bags of laundry over. But then, my washing machine is hooked up for gray water. So I watered the garden while I was doing that and I got to see them,
Talk about function stacking there. Wow. Permaculture and everything here.
Yeah. So,
that's brilliant.
Yeah, that's the kind of gifts I like. So
I love that too. And I'm still, I want my brain to start thinking along those lines because I think, the more we can give gifts like that, how meaningful is that? Like you said, you got more connection and you really, you took a load off, I mean, I think that's wonderful. Yeah.
So just some ideas. And I think I really want to emphasize and I believe that it's really, really difficult is to be honest with yourself what you can do financially. Because I feel a lot of people feel an obligation to give gifts, or to give even to their children a lot of gifts, which are not really in the budget. And to me, that creates a lot of stress for a long time.
And as you said, so often with children, we give them so many things. They're just overwhelmed. They can't even really enjoy, the gifts that we give them because they're overwhelmed with gifts. They could give them one or two things and wow, their eyes light up and they're so excited. Why don't I don't know. I think we kind of take away from the giving when we give too much.
Yeah. I think what I wanted to emphasize though is that there is no shame to stand by what you actually can do. Instead it's fine to say, look, money is in this spot right now and there is not more available at this point. And I'm not saying to go into poverty thinking and I never can do more or whatever, but to just be realistic what's available right now. And if right now there is not that much available, then that's it.
Yeah, if we all switch to that, boy, how the world would change, especially here in the U.S. because we really have gotten into that way of thinking that we have to keep up with the Joneses. We have to do that, whatever it takes. And debt is just part of life. No, it doesn't have to be part of life.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, I think it's a keeping up and also a little bit entitlement thinking. What, I call it entitlement thinking. It might be the wrong word for it, but to say I deserve this, therefore I will get it, even so I can't afford it. And I guess I'm coming more from, well, yeah, I might want this, but it's not in my budget. What can I do instead? Which is just as wonderful because, a lot of great things in life come for free anyways, like our podcast.
Yep.
So.
Yeah. Huge. Let's see now. We have covered holidays a bit. We've covered some of our homesteading tasks, but we have not touched on something very big that has happened since the last time that we spoke. And that is, there was a big election here in the U.S., and we now have a new president-elect. And regardless of where you come down on the political spectrum, I think we're all going through some major stuff as a result of that. And how are we dealing with that? I mean, to me, that this whole election has, even as much as I've tried not to have it, it's definitely had it colored my life. And as a result, for me, I realized that it's been extremely important for me to meditate every day and double down on my yoga, my meditation. I even I'm getting together with the group on a regular basis once a week to meditate because based on the research and what I've read, I do believe that has a very, very powerful effect on the world. But I've been very consistent because I feel it. There's some powerful stuff we're working through. We're all collectively working through right now. And, there has never been a better time to really take care of yourself and go inward and really look at the stuff each of us needs to kind of forgive and clear and let go of. Because when we do that, we have a very beneficial, powerful effect on the whole planet, I believe.
Yeah, there is this thing in laughter yoga is that when you laugh, you change yourself. And when you change yourself, you change the world because everything we do affects a lot of others. And so meditation is the same way. And we already talked about getting sick and stress and Christmas stress. And so finding, whatever works for you, the style of meditation. I know you do a lot of sitting and silent meditation. And those work for me for short periods of time. For me, like the laughter meditation works really well, where basically meditation means that your mind concentrates on one thing. So even washing dishes could be a meditation if all you do is washing dishes and your full concentration is on this. So absolutely, even if we not think about the whole world, and I agree with you, said there have been even studies made that I think it was in Washington, D.C., where the crime rate is fairly high. And they had, I believe, Buddhist monks and people which were praying Christian prayers, I believe, and like all different forms of meditation. And in my opinion, prayer is a form of meditation of just really that focus. And the crime rate went down. They did that for do you remember the study? Do you know about it?
Yeah, and I'll, definitely that's what I'm referring to, and it's not the only one that's been done. I believe I will try to look up some information, and we'll hopefully put those links in the show notes so you can see that this isn't just la crazy stuff. This is actual scientifically verified stuff that shows that our inner world definitely affects our outer world. And when we get them together in groups with a focused intention, that has a powerful effect.
For sure. So how many people are in your group?
Well, how many want to be and how many have showed up? That's the question. Right now, it's quite small. There's only 2 other than me, but we're hoping to get more. The people that are in the group now actually have done this before. They've done a regular group in the past. So I think it's highly likely that we'll get some of those past participants in it as well. But I definitely want to do it at least until the inauguration, because I believe this is just a very powerful time for all of humanity. And the more positive, focused intention we can put out there, the more likely we'll have a positive outcome, I think.
Sounds good. Sounds good. So did you just ask your friend, or are you posting it? Like if somebody says, oh, this sounds like a good idea, I want to do it too.
Well, I haven't done a public one. I did one public one actually on election night. I did a public one at the yoga center here in Big Bear. And that was good. I had several people come to that. I haven't really decided to do a full-on public one yet. Right now it's just me and my friends, but I may do one. I may do that as well eventually.
But that's a good start. Just finding a couple of friends, because, I mean, even it's a power of two. If it's you and somebody else, if anything, by creating a space like that, a time where you commit to, it's, how do you say it? Like you hold yourself accountable, so that you show up for it. Because everything to doing with self-care is so easy to push back when there are other things which need to be taken care of. So setting a time like that helps to actually show up to do it. So
yes,
good for you.
Yep, very absolutely. Well, and do you have anything else to share or add, Mariana?
No, I think my mind is blank maybe right now. Oh, actually, you know what? Go ahead, and I have to look this up because I want to share a podcast I just came across and I really like. Yeah. But
okay, well,
what do you have to say?
It's what I wanted to share was, if you've been listening to the podcast, you've heard my interviews with some of the new thinkers that are coming along that are developing new systems that are more sustainable and better for humanity in general than the current systems, economic and social systems that we have. So in the past few weeks, I interviewed Jay Sable of One Community. And also, more recently, I interviewed Brandon Shalton of the Ubuntu movement, Ubuntu USA. And they both have some wonderful ideas about how humanity can go forward in a sustainable way that doesn't hurt the planet, but that also helps to ensure that we all thrive and that we don't have so much stress, that we have a community that supports us, that and that we don't end up working our butts off, 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week just to survive. A lot of these systems are talking about moneyless alternatives. And it's really exciting to me to talk to these people and to hear about these ideas, because as we always say on the podcast, when you can envision it, it's much more likely that it can happen. So I've done those two. I have also done interviews with Mark Angelo Coppola of the Valhalla movement and Nicole Beanfang of the Transition, which is not actually directly associated with the Transition Towns movement, but they're on the same lines. And then I'm getting ready to do an interview with someone from a intentional community out on the East Coast called Twin Oaks, which has actually been working and thriving since the 1960s. So I hope that you will all check these interviews out if you want to hear some information that's powerful and can actually inspire you, make you feel better about the world. I would highly recommend you check them out.
They are very interesting, and I'm looking for, some of them sound like they're really starting to put things into form, so it's not all theory. And so I'm really looking forward to see like working examples, even if they're small, because if some can be done small, it can become bigger. And so
they're all
really
on the verge. I think that probably the one so far that I've interviewed so far that's the furthest along would be Mark Angelo Coppola and the Valhalla movement. But they are all on the verge of actually actually getting a place and moving forward. One of the ones, the transition is a little different because at this point it is the community I think it's called How to Create a Resource-Based Economy Now, and RBE Economy Now. It's a Facebook group, and it's got like more than 9,000 members. It's very active. Well, they're transitioning to a website, and it's called The Transition. And talk about resources there. Wow. If you're interested in that one, they take you by the hand and they want you to look at what you want to do and be really specific. And they also want you to educate yourself. And one of the ways that they do that is they want you to go through the nonviolent communication seminar. They have an actual seminar, a 3-hour-long class on nonviolent communication, which I think you were talking about in your last interview.
Yeah,
Mary.
I was. It's so funny how everything kind of comes together. And yeah, so that's part really of the whole permaculture idea, is that we are all connected. We are all connected. And again, that brings us back to when we change ourselves, we change the whole world, because we affect other people all the time. So if we're in a grumpy mood, it makes me think when I was a store owner and I saw like probably 250 people every day, and it was a little Auntie Emma style store. Mm-hmm. And I would have customers, all my employees would just be scared of them because they come in and they are so grumpy and they always find something wrong. And I had the ability, I probably still have it, but sometimes I'm grumpy too. But, to just be smiling and being nice to everybody and just put on this, happy storekeeper thing all the time. And there were so many people, like you just treated them nicely. They started to be so much nicer. Mm-hmm. It's like this action gets reaction. If you are showing up grumpy in the world, then grumpiness comes back to you, so.
Yeah. Well, I went through that. I got to say that nonviolent communication thing I found fascinating, and I really want to delve a lot more deeply into that, because, that's the language of the heart, and we all, if we all come at life from the heart, wow, think about how things could change.
Whoa, is that the wind I'm hearing?
That is wind and reed hitting my window right now.
Wow, that's so loud. Wow. Pretty crazy. Well, that gets me to, I want to give a shout out. Jenise mentioned before that we're active on Twitter, and actually both of us have our separate account, and then there's Sustainable Living. What is the handle for the?
It's at Sust Live Pod or Living Pod. Sust Living Pod.
Okay.
Is what it is, yeah.
So we're there, and Jenise is like a pro at Twitter, and I'm kind of a beginner. I was not very keen on social media for a long time, and I'm getting more and more how wonderful it can be. It can definitely be some to just suck your time in, but it's also a place where you can really make some great connections. So one of the things I found out on Twitter, there is a group and they use a hashtag podernfamily, and they support each other in promoting the podcast. So it's all podcasters, and they pin stuff, and then you put the hashtag in, and then you retweet the tweets. So I've started doing that.
What's the hashtag?
Podern, P like in Paul, O D as in Dora, ERN, family, FA like family, family. And they are super supportive to each other. And, there are people using the hashtag which probably don't get the idea or don't know what it's all about, which are not really doing the retweeting. But there is a really great core group of people, which are just very supportive of each other. And they all seem to have become friends and so forth.
Well, thanks for letting me know about that. I'm going to start following that hashtag.
Yeah, do. And so I started retweeting stuff and they were retweeting my things. And I said, well, I'm new to it. I really want to reach out and say thank you to people who are doing this. And one of them, it says in the bio that he's from Tennessee, and just two good friends of mine moved to Tennessee. So I was mentioning it. So, we did a little tweeting back and forth, and then I listened to his podcast and I really liked it. And it's a comedy podcast, and I'm going to say the name in a second. But he said, "Oh, I'm going to listen to your podcast, so ours, what we're doing right now." And I tweeted to him, "Well, we are not funny."
I don't know. Sometimes we're funny, kind of funny.
Yeah, but maybe by accident.
We think we're funny. That's all that matters.
That's right. And he said, "Well, don't worry. I have a serious podcast as well." So I want to give a shout out to a serious podcast, and it's called the MailMan's Survival Guide to the Galaxy podcast. Ooh. And it's about mental health. And I came in with episode 40. For some reason, I chose that. And in there, he's talking about how he's losing his eyesight and what he's going through and all that stuff. And so all of the episodes, he's very truly sharing, his own struggles with going through these changes and how it affects you. And I so appreciate that, because I think there's so many people affected by bouts of depression or more serious things. And most of us don't want to share it with the world. Most of us like to share our happy face and not so much the dark side, so to speak. Yeah. So I totally want to give him a shout out and really thank him, because I think especially when you're feeling in the dark space or despair, said sometimes you feel like you're the only person out there. And so I just really, I don't know.
Yeah.
Want to say thank you. And we're definitely going to put a link to that.
Yeah.
And then the podcast I first listened to, it's him and his brother, and it's called the Pro-Rons podcast. So it's BRO and then hyphen RON apostrophe S podcast. And this is like they are coming together and making fun of everything in the world. And and they're actually real brothers. And you can tell that they have a good relationship. And, you listen to it and you smile and you laugh. And I got in an episode where they were talking a little bit about their background, and said some people might think they get offended because they're, mimicking accents and stuff like that. And they say, no, we're making fun of everybody. So anyway, so that's my two big shout outs.
Very cool.
Yeah.
That's great. It's always nice to hear about a new podcast to check out.
Oh, for sure. And as we get deeper into this world of podcasting, I'm really blown away by how supportive the community is. So I really love that. So, hey, podcasters out there, thank you.
Yay. Well, cool. Well, I think we've covered quite a bit here, Mariana.
I think so, too.
Is there anything else that we need to share with everybody?
No, we shared where we are at, right? And, how to reach us. Maybe we should, since we're in the shout out phase, let's give a shout out to the Better World Podcast Collective as well. That's, in England. Well, it's not in England. It's on the internet. The founder of it is in England, and it's a collection of all different kind of podcasts, which all have to do with sustainable thinking. So some of it is on economics and then companies and stuff like that. And we are part of it, and we are very proud of that too.
Yeah, absolutely. Very proud of it. It's great. Yeah. So check it out. If you want to check out some more sustainability and sustainable living kinds of podcasts, check out that Better World. It's called the Better World
Podcast Collective. And let's link it in the show notes too. Oh, before I forget, we are talking about shopping. And so you already know that I'm not a great shopper, but Jenise is.
Oh, not too much. I've really mended my ways, Marianne. I'm not as bad as I used
Good.
to.
No, I'm just saying, if you're shopping, you actually can support our show if you're shopping on Amazon, because we have an affiliate link with Amazon. And so if you're spending your money anyways, we won't stop you, or we can't. It would be nice if you support us by going to our website, clicking the link. There's a little button which says Amazon, and it takes you right to the Amazon site. You're not paying anything extra, but we get a little percentage, and we would love that to cover the cost of this podcast. Yay.
Yeah, we're a long way from even coming close to covering the costs of this podcast.
Yeah,
so
very long.
everything really helps. Everything helps.
Yeah, for sure. Long ways to go, but we love it. So thanks for listening.
Yeah. Oh, one more thing I wanted to share is this podcast has really come far. Every month we've had like another extra 1,000 downloads, I think definitely for the last year. So we're gaining a lot of new listeners, and we want to welcome you all. And we're on the verge. I think we're at podcast 70 now. So not too much longer, and we'll hit that 100. Hoping to have maybe some kind of a celebration or some kind of something to commemorate that. But in any case, I just wanted to thank everybody out there for tuning us in, checking us out, enjoying the podcast. Everything helps. We're really, really growing, and hopefully we'll be able to keep growing with your help.
For sure. Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah. And with that, thank you all for joining in for this week's version of the podcast. We will see you next week. Happy holidays.